Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Before I introduce you to our co host in this series, here's a quote just for this episode. Something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture in its intrapsychic or internal manifestation. The thing we do not understand is the chaos that gave rise to culture. If the structure of culture is disrupted unwittingly, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. This is episode 6 in a series. Vinny, why don't you take it away and tell our listeners what we've been up to, why we started this series, and any other thoughts, to introduce this show. Vinnie Candelore, everybody.
Thanks for having me again, Jay. Um, Hopefully everybody, it's been listening to the last few episodes, um, you know, has tracked along with the conversation building up to now. But if you haven't, the recap, I guess, would be the initial idea came from, um, I'm doing a painting for Dr. Jordan Peterson for an event where you're going to be interviewing him. And, I thought it would be fun to pick your brain a little bit just about, what you've learned doing research, and studying him and his work. And so I could use some of that knowledge in the painting. I think the last episode we had was like a huge breakthrough on like the vision for what I want this painting to look like. And
Wow.
I have been just like marinating on that. Like, because I know I see it in my head of like what this bus looks like coming like right at me. And but then I'm like, but sometimes the first idea isn't the best one. Like sometimes the that idea has to sit there for a second. And then you like maybe try it, like sketch it out a few times, like before I just throw. So I've been just really like revisiting the details of that bus and like what it looks like. Um, but to be honest with you, since we started this, like, and I'm actually kind of nervous. I haven't watched any of them back. And I know you've sent me some links, but I haven't watched any of them back yet.
All of them.
You've watched them all?
No, sent you all of
Oh,
them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I I I'm going through like some of like the craziest, you know, things of my life right now. I said on the last episode, I said I feel like I'm in chaos. And, I think the quote is so fitting. And I'm just sorting through everything. And these conversations have helped me do that. And I do believe that like this painting that will end up presenting to Dr. Peterson is going to be something special. I know for sure to me. Um, and I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to continue the conversation because it's like I'm a different person too since we started this series. And like half the reason I haven't watched it back is because I almost want to watch it for the first time like when it's released. And just I don't know what's making me want to do that, but
Is it like a movie?
um I don't know, it feels a little pretentious to say that, but yeah, it feels like I'm living in like something. I'm just walking right now and like things that are happening along the way. Like, yeah, I I'm not living like I have a lot of people in my life that I feel like they can predict everything that's going to happen to them in their day from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. And like most days I like envy that because you know mine I can't do that right now. But at the same time, I'm getting that back, like a little bit more of that control back. Um, the last 2 weeks, I've regained a lot more control over like, what my day looks like. And that has helped me knock out a lot of projects that have been lingering over my head for a long time. So that feels good. That gives me a lot more clarity and peace of mind. I'm working on stuff that I'm like really excited about in the midst of all this. Like, like I'm doing some paintings that are for some collaborations here in Pittsburgh that I'm really excited about. I'm doing like a beer can this summer, probably around the time this drops. Like a design for Iron City beer. They're putting it on a beer can like of a painting that I did in their brewery, and like
Wow.
they're like a historic company here in Pittsburgh, and they've never had a painting on a can, but they've had several commemorative cans of like just different designs and things. But this is a first painting. And they told me that while I was working on it. And halfway through the painting, I felt like it was terrible. And it kind of resembled the first painting that I did for um, Dr. Peterson. And so then I was able to like tap back into, okay, well, and maybe this is just kind of my style. Maybe this is like the process and like that process point. Cause it's weird when there's people standing around you watching you paint it and they don't know where you're going with it. And they're hoping just like you are that like, I hope this turns into something because if it doesn't, this is going to be weird. We're all going to have to act like we like it. You know what I mean?
Which, oh, rule three,
Mm,
beyond order. Do not hide unwanted things in the fog.
yeah.
Have you seen that before where there's a handful of people around a painting and everyone is acting like they know what they're looking at?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And well, yeah, and then like I'll also throw this in. You have helped me a lot along this. This is how this is probably why I have the relationship I do with you where I see like, you know, you're somebody who tells the truth. We did a painting last year and I'll leave out the details on it. It was a year and a half, 2 years ago. And maybe we've even mentioned this on the previous episodes, but if I'm repeating myself, just forgive me because this has been a 2 month series. I can't remember what I said yesterday. So like, but yeah, we did the painting. Everybody was telling me it looked great. I knew something was off about it, but like when you stare at a painting for like so long, you kind of like your brain starts to fill in the missing pieces because you're staring at it and like you're confusing it for the reference image, things like that. You
Sure.
need that honest feedback in a painting. And everybody was telling me it was great. And but I could tell by their reaction that it was like, yeah, no, it looks great. No, I mean it's a tough image or like it looks good. It's like, no, just tell me like what do you think is off?
Everyone gets a trophy here today,
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. Yeah, and I texted it to Jenna and she was like, and like showed it to you and she was like, Jay said it looks a little corpsey. And like it literally like hit me in the chest. Like, yes, that's it. Like there's too much shadow under the eye. There's too much like, that fixed it. It saved the painting. So like that honesty really is important, that feedback to people that are creating something.
Dr. Peterson has helped me learn that tyrannies occur, right? Having studied totalitarianism for his career, tyrannies occur when everyone lies all the time about everything.
Hmm.
I have a quote for you on that. Quote, I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that from now on, I can't believe you. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Lying is it's a component of our nature.
Hmm.
It's a survival. There's
Right.
so much value in the short term to lying. What do you do when someone knocks on your door and pulls a pistol out to your forehead and asks you,
Hmm.
is anyone home? Yes, the United States military with tanks and AK-47s are in the living room.
Hmm.
No, they're not.
Right.
No, no one's home. I'm in a perfect position to be robbed and raped.
Right.
Feel free to take over my household and kill my children.
Right.
What do you do in that scenario? I bring that situation up because actually one time I was in a debate with BL, Brad Lee, and he used that example. I was like, man, that's a good one. What do you do? I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't go as detailed as I went. There's now just all, it was a little dramatic there, but aggressive. But I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's a good thought experiment.
Is that the recent episode, the most recent
This
episode?
is no, this is just us in the office.
How many have you?
Like
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I've only
that
seen.
just imprinted in my mind years ago.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, dude. Yeah. And
I'm
that.
not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that from now on, I can't believe you.
Yeah. Because it changes the dynamic of the relationship like forever. And if now the only way that you can get that relationship back on track is accountability for the lie and like ownership of it. Hey, this is why I did it. I was afraid of this. I realized that it was wrong, and like I'm gonna work to earn your trust back because I don't want to. I also don't want to live in a world where you can't believe me because I value our relationship. It's that simple. Um, and like meaning it, like you got to mean it too. You can't just like rehearse that and say it. But the only way you get there is if you actually reflect on it, and like you're wrong. I'm wrong. We're all wrong in certain areas of how we got to the point of having to, not wrong. Like maybe that's a bad way to say it. Like everybody drops the ball, and if you can't say, "Hey, I'm responsible for this percentage of that," and leading up to the point where we had to tell a lie to sleep at night, you know?
I was just reading this in Rule 11 of Beyond Order. So, book 3, 12 more rules for life. It's Rule 11. Do not let yourself become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant. So, I was just typing up my notes for this one, moving forward to do the recording. Do not let yourself become resentful, deceitful, or arrogant.
Yeah.
And Dr. Peterson was talking about how there is how arrogance and resentment have a relationship,
Mm,
how arrogance with lying,
yeah.
like they couple together.
Hmm.
Um, and they're like there's and he breaks it down: lies of commission, lies of omission.
Hmm.
Omission, I'm going to hold back. Commission, I'm going to change. I'm going to attempt. This is the arrogance piece I thought was so interesting to change the structure of reality.
Hmm.
Like there's an inherent belief. And by the way, this is the complexity in this. Um, Sins of omission and commission. So omission, I'm gonna hold back, or which has a relationship with self-deception,
Hmm.
that actually influences commission.
Hmm.
Um, uh, as an individual, my capacity to lie out, like commit lie, an alteration of reality, has a relationship with what I omit,
Right.
and that has a relationship with the life experiences that I go through. Like,
Yeah.
well, it's like anyone that's listening, Rule 11 and Beyond Order is really heavy and valuable. It's laden in value. But the arrogance piece is, and the argument he's making is that, um, think about that, right? I'm one of 7 billion people,
Hmm.
and I believe that I'm going to alter reality by doing that. It's not going to come back
Right.
to get me. Well, but as an individual, as a in a metaphysical sense, in like the grand eternal order of like chaos, I've been thrown into this world. Like, here I am. Um, I'm a victim. I'm taking a victim stance.
Hmm.
Like I'm acting out of fear. I'm acting irrationally. I'm acting um, reactively. It's rooted through fear, like fear, a fear, and so there's this idea that yeah, there's an arrogant stance in change in lying because who am I to think that I can alter the structure of reality and get away with it? There you go. That's what who am I to think that? Well, this is the interesting thing about it. Well, I'm not thinking when I'm doing that.
Mm,
Am I really thinking rather if I'm doing that? But in it, just so to bring this down to earth here is like there's a humility that came to me in reading this because first of all, you said I tell the truth earlier. No, I don't. And this is what I mean that um, there's it's levels of truth. It's like
sure.
that's an aspirational goal to tell the truth and nothing but it all the time.
Yeah.
I better be ready to give up everything and lose everyone. And like, oh, now I'm all of a sudden, well, what that's some messianic concept. It's like, yeah, how much truth can I handle?
Right.
That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Do you or anybody else even want someone in their life that tells the truth to you all the time and in every scenario and every inkling?
Yeah. Probably like probably makes it really hard to yeah, have a relationship to begin with, but um I think what's special though is those people in my life, like even when they try to like tell me, those people that have like shown me true levels of like uncomfortable truth at times, when they, if they don't continue to do that, it's based off of how I reacted. So like I'm then responsible, I believe, to come back to that conversation and be like, hey, I know you're not telling me the honesty, the truth here. And it's probably because of either how me or somebody else recently reacted to you telling them the truth. And like you're afraid I'm going to react that way again, or, you know,
That's a great point.
the way somebody else reacted is going to be the way that I react. And so it's like we should all always want the truth no matter what. Now I know that that's like a hypothetical world, but like it would fix a lot of the world's problems.
This is awesome. One of the arguments that Dr. Peterson is making it through like weaved into these 24 rules is when you follow these rules and you are on this path to personal responsibility and for example, rule 9 and beyond order. If old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely.
Mm,
Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. Like, is that what happens is if you tell me a truth, the more truthful it is, and the less aware and experienced I am at picking it up. It's like you throwing me a 40-pound dumbbell and I've only lifted 35. And as soon as it touches my hands, it hits the ground.
hmm.
Like, so immediately my response is going to be fight or flight, high cortisol, stress hormone. I might say something to you that you don't like.
Yeah.
I'm reacting, I'm quote unquote triggered.
Hmm.
But there's things that we can do as individuals to be less triggered by the world. And he's making an argument throughout these 24 rules of how to be less entitled, reactive, neurotic, psychotic, add whatever, right? And so that we are capable of responding to conflicts that others bring. In rule 1 and beyond order, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions and creative achievements. He talks about there's like a checklist he would use with clients. basically when they came into his office, yeah, what's the relationship like you have with your career? Have you been educated to your highest level of ambition? What's your relationship with your family like? What's the relationship with your community? Do you have friends? What's those relationships like? How about your health? What about your community? Do you participate in there's like a checklist to see if a person, how integrated we are in society. Because our identity is not, I learned this in his course on Peterson Academy, How to Plan Your Life. Our identity is not in our head. We think it is. It's a part of the overall culture,
Hmm.
our identity. And at any given time, any of those things on the checklist could be fractured or broken and out of alignment,
Hmm.
disjointed. The interesting thing, though, about one interesting thing that came to my mind about this is like someone has to choose to go to the office. Well, what if I never choose? What if I never go? What if I never put myself in the office? You know, is the act of omission in that endeavor a representation of arrogance? Uh, uh, it's like the world. Anyway, so I've been thinking about that recently. Like it takes courage to go to get help.
Hmm.
It takes courage to get help. That's a courageous act. But in our culture, like, isn't that frowned upon? Isn't it? I'm curious. Yeah, but like, isn't that embarrassing, or isn't there shame around that to get um eh, to try to go and to seek help, to
Yeah.
seek guidance? But then on the other hand, like if people are listening to this, if you're listening to podcasts, right, or reading self-help books, that's it's just a watered down version of that.
Hmm.
It, is it really helping oneself if oneself is not putting oneself in an environment of ultimate vulnerability and nakedness? Right? Is if I'm listening to this podcast right now, I'm a listener. I'm seeking help for my individuality, for my to integrate, to be aligned with my potential, to be a better version of myself. However, I haven't let go yet. I'm still in control, or air quotes, perceiving that I'm in control of my self-development journey. It's a facade.
Hmm.
What if that's an act? What if that's an expression of arrogance in itself? I'm just following a thought on that. Like, I'm thinking about
Yeah.
this quite a bit, but haven't flushed out the idea fully. But self-help, it's a paradox. Can one help oneself as a self? No, because the self isn't just a self thing. And that's one thing that is screams out in the 24 rules, is that the self is more than just the self. It's not just me.
Hmm.
It's like I'm going to hand out surveys to all the people in my life. Who am I? All the
Hmm.
people that I've collected, right? All the people that have they're the collect. It's like a company doing a company survey.
Yeah.
How's our product? What's it taste like? What's it feel like? That's better feedback then.
Right.
But what is the self-development culture about?
I,
Don't listen to anybody. Don't
yeah.
listen to the haters. Don't listen to the critics.
Right.
To me, that just is going to create everything in a vacuum and make somebody more likely to be narcissistic and psychopathic and psychotic.
Hmm.
I just went on a whole rabbit race there, but
No, I love that.
going through these rules like a student, like, oh my gosh, I want to put myself on another on a I want to, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm acting like a dummy. I don't know anything. I don't know what I'm doing, and I need help. um these are some of the things I've taken away from these rules.
Yeah. I'll say like since I started this series with you, like I've done a lot of like self-help style, like, learning, whether it be, watching Peterson Academy videos, watching, like you said, videos on YouTube, watching, like, while I'm doing a lot of these painting projects, you can only listen to your playlist or like the things that like get you inspired to paint for so long. And then once the inspiration of like that song or like that thing or whatever it is kind of fades away, you're just left with another 25 hours of staring at a canvas before you can get up and move your body, and you're just in your head the whole time. And so like I've been trying to find ways to learn while I'm doing it. It's like a when I'm painting, sometimes like once I get the concept of what I'm painting down and it's just a matter of time before it's done,
Hmm.
then my brain just shuts off from the painting because it's like riding a bike. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm just executing something that I know I need to do. And so my brain opens up to be able to listen to, videos or podcasts or lectures or whatever it may be. Um, but like that only lasts for maybe 3 hours. So like for example, this past week I did a painting for this event. We did a live podcast and like we raffled off a painting. The painting was of like a bunch of football players that were gonna all sign it, kind of like similar to what we did last year in the fall at the curtain call event. Um, and this one I had it all mapped out. I knew where they had to be. I had the like, sketch on the canvas. So now it's just a matter of like looking at the reference image and painting it. There's not really thought about like should this color be here. It's just it's math at that point. It's just do it. And so in that I listened to a lot of lecture and a lot of like thought-provoking content because I was able to shut my mind off. When I'm doing something like this painting that we're talking about, I don't necessarily know where it's going to end up, but I have a vision for it in my head. There is no like I can't Google bus coming at me across the bridge, like you know what I mean? I can on AI kind of, but
Okay, if the bus is coming, I just want to, if the bus is coming at me, right?
hmm
I love the metaphor. I'm the individual. This bus is coming. I'm on a bridge headed towards like my idealized self in a sense, following my conscience.
hmm
Because that's one of the themes in especially like Rule 12. The conscience is an accountability mechanism in our being. And when we omit and when we lie, we distort reality and we lose our vision. This is what Peterson's teaching us, which undermines our accountability mechanism, the conscience, to reorient our vision, which actually has a relationship with our identity, which has a relationship with our capacity to have meaning in life
hmm
and have like manifest a purpose, which impacts all of our interpersonal relationships, which has a relationship with it. It's basically like death spiraling down psychologically, and then that will be reflected in our economy. Now, even if and someone that is at the top of the pyramid, like the most wealthy person in the world, could still be the king of shit.
mm
This is the devil. Like they're at the top of a pyramid, but they've created a prison. But okay, all these themes, right? But so the bus is coming at you. I'm the individual. The bus is coming at me, but I'm trying to go across a bridge. If I, for the last couple we talked about, you have this bridge to truth. Okay, truth as in like because in these books he's talking about my potential, my destiny is calling out to me through my conscience, and how I show up with my conscience. Am I listening? Am I acting out that intuition or not? Right? Am I saying what I think or am I holding back? That has a relationship with me getting across that bridge to my destiny.
hmm
You're showing this bus metaphorically is coming at me. It's like pressure. That's how I'm interpreting it. Pressure, adversity. I'm not just going to go head onto the bus. Am I going to weave? How am I going to weave? I don't know. But I'm just visualizing what it like in the bus. There's people in a bus usually.
yeah
Now, each of these rules, have tension with other rules. So like, if on a bus, there's always kids like talking, hanging, some are fighting.
Yeah.
Like rule 3 and rule 9, if they're on the bus, they're wrestling.
Mm,
Rule 3, do not hide unwanted things in the fog. Rule 9, if old memories still upset you, write them down carefully and completely. Rule 9 is the antidote to rule 3.
mm,
Rule 4, notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated, is because there's 6 positive rules, I would say, and 6 negative rules. They complement one another. So notice that opportunity lurks where responsibility has been abdicated. Rule 4 and rule 5, do not do what you hate. They're tied together. Don't do what you hate, because one of the advice in that rule is, if you're within an organization that is ultimately has abdicated responsibility, don't check out and just like be a lump on a log. Find problems and ultimately embody rule 4, and opportunity will manifest itself in front of you, even if it's not in that organization, it's the next thing. So where
mhm.
I'm going with this, like, rule 12 is an antidote to rule 11. um so I wonder if, like, if I'm on if there's a bus, these rules could be talking to one another, fighting with one another, uh
Yeah.
congregating, like in the bus. I don't know if that's something that could be drawn or something, but if there's is in a bus, and there's 24 rules in there, they're going ape shit crazy,
Yeah.
communicating
Ooh.
out. So like each rule is in the bus and is like kids. In some are kids, some are adults. Like some are
Yeah.
kids, some are the teachers in the bus, and then others are the bus
Chaperone.
driver. It's like,
Yeah.
which one's the bus driver?
Yeah.
I just like I this could be interpreted in many different ways, but
Yeah.
even how they relate to one another. But like rule 7 and rule in beyond order and rule 1 have a relationship, because if you work as hard as you possibly can at least one thing and see what happens. Well, and in rule 2, if you imagine who you could be and aim single-mindedly at that, you're less likely to carelessly denigrate social institutions. Instead of carelessly denigrating, you're more apt to carefully critique. Carefully critiquing is what a master does. Carelessly denigrating is what a someone that's not even apprenticing. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, that's the difference between an opinion from a novice, a resentful neophyte, novice, a disenfranchised person that's suffering from the Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know, the more you think you know, versus an expert who their opinion has weight because they've worked as hard as they possibly can on at least one thing and see what happens.
Yeah.
So each of these rules are in the bus, and some are children, some are teachers, some are the one, which one is the bus driver? I don't know. That's a word picture that comes to my mind. It's like, or if they're not in the bus, you can't, I don't know how the hell, but obviously I wouldn't know how to draw it, but or near on this bridge somewhere, or
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Are the rules in front of the bus trying to protect?
I think the
Are some of the rules on the bus like excited about,
yeah, oh yeah.
running me over, and then are some of them in front of me trying to protect me from the bus hitting
Yeah.
me? I don't know.
Like the thing and the thing that just popped into my head is like who's driving the bus? Like I think it's me. Like I
Oh,
think it's
that's
me, you know?
okay. This is interesting.
Like because all of those
Driving
things,
a bus coming towards you or driving a bus
yeah,
across the bridge?
like both. Like I'm both. I'm the person on the bridge getting run over by the bus coming back from the quest across already
Yeah,
with
okay.
all the new knowledge and information. And it's like the different, you know,
That's a really genius idea, because in this, Dr. Peterson is talking about, there are many personalities that each individual has that are vying for dominance over our reality, over our personality, our personal reality. There, and it's part of our responsibility to subdue them, to put them in an order, that to put them in their proper place. There's multiple. There are multiple yous. There are multiple me's. There are multiple that are fighting. Sorry to interrupt.
No, yeah, you just interrupted to call my thought genius, so please.
So, well, in these rules, like it's there are multiple. Example, we have impulses. We have impulses that come, that call to us. Maybe I said I tell you I'm gonna get something done later this afternoon, and I'm going to do it. And now all of a sudden feelings arise in me to go do something else. Like my future, if I gave you my word I was going to get it done this afternoon, my future self, as it relates to our relationship, is going to suffer
Right,
because I gave you my word, and now I'm letting my impulse to do something else
right,
that might satiate me in the moment, but there's a future cost
sure.
to me later, because me later has a relationship with you, and there's going to be a consequence to that. There's more than one me, even in the sense beyond personality. There's me today, and there's me tomorrow. There's me in the future, and me in the future is going to get rewarded or penalized based on what me today does.
Hmm.
There's a tension between me today and me in the future, and the you know people that how easy is it to kind of throw up our hands and say, well, the hell with that, I'll just live in the moment.
Hmm.
Doing that so much ultimately undermines our relationship with other people, which undermines our relationship with ourselves over time. That's one
Yeah,
of the arguments in Rule 12. Be grateful despite your suffering. It's easy for us to fall into these self-centered. Actually, it was in How to Plan a Life. There's no difference between misery and self-centeredness. Being self-centered and being miserable, have a relationship one, that doesn't mean somebody can't be like get su success in the short term, relationally or sexually or financially or whatever. Add insert short term gratification, but long term there are costs to that. It eats the culture from the inside, and it goes against the idea of hope, because there's two motivations that Peterson is teaching us. One is satiation, which it ends the frame. So you had a goal and then you complete it. So like when you finally finish this painting, that frame will end.
hmm,
And in the absence of a newer goal or a meta goal, there's a void of hope to counterbalance the depression. People get depressed after they accomplish their PhD thesis or
hmm.
the last thing that you succeed, that there wasn't. So hope is a key driver.
Yeah,
Having a vision is a key driver. It all ties together. Omitting, committing, lying, that skews our vision, which lowers our hope. We're not operating from hope, we're operating from fear. So of course we're nihilistic. Nah, nothing matters. Doesn't matter. I'll do it tomorrow. Who cares?
hmm,
They don't matter. And we just like invert.
yeah, yeah. I do think, going back to the thought of me driving the bus. I think there's been times in my life where I've been on that bridge and like I'm trying to cross and I can't see the driver as myself. like I've only been able to see the driver as somebody else, and that's when I've just jumped off the bridge because I'm like, I don't even like I don't trust that that person cares enough about me to swerve. So it's going to be up to me to get out of the way. But like when I know that it's me behind the wheel, like I know that I'm the kind of person that's not just going to run somebody over. And so it gives me peace to stand there and know that like I don't have to jump, but I do have to move out of the way and like do my part. Because if I just stand there like this, you know, maybe he doesn't have enough, I don't have enough room to swerve around myself. But if I can at least like find a way to like hug onto the side of the bridge while that version of me trucks past, I'll be able to like continue on. But like I don't have to fully jump off the bridge, but I do have to do work to get out of my own way. And that's the process I've been going through over the last 3 months that we've been doing this. And I mean, I'm still like I'm nervous to watch it back truly because like I'm kind of like embarrassed. I'm kind of like,
Of what?
well, it's like what you said, man, like seeking, revealing yourself is tough, especially when you're recording it, And the original like there's probably been 10 times since we started recording this where I thought to text you and say, "Hey, I don't think we should ever even release these." And because we've talked about some real stuff that like has plagued me my whole life. I genuinely
Wow.
feel like it's a therapy session sitting here talking to you. And
Well, I want to make sure you're not alone in that, dude. I don't want to be a victim anymore. That's
yeah,
why when I talk about these things, if that's why I make sure I say I don't want any followers because if I speak in you statements,
hmm
the perception is that I'm above this or something.
yeah, yeah. No, I don't
Like,
feel like alone in it for sure. I
all
won't
right, well, I don't, this is
don't
like
feel alone. And
everything that you're going through, I go through, which is
well,
why
that's why
I
I
read
haven't
these damn books and do this business. And
and that's why I haven't sent that text. If I felt like I was alone in this,
amen.
you
Wow.
were like also going through that at a different phase, different level of life, different like, your reality is different based off what you've lived through than me. So like, you know, I do think that like that is why I have been like, all right, let's roll with this because like there's equal vulnerability on both sides of this. So like, I actually don't feel alone. I actually feel like I'm finally part of I don't even care if there's like 100 of us in the world. I'd rather be in that group of 100 people that are like vulnerably honest and like trying to get out of their own way and just understand that like 8 billion other people just aren't doing that. And then it's those 100 people that can affect change in the life of those 8 billion people for the positive too. So like, but not through virtue signaling, not through like taking a picture and being like, we helped this person today. Like literally just by establishing like a new reality that gets back to the truth and like modeling what that looks like. That's why I'm like, I don't know. But that's terrifying because then it's like, who am I to think I could save the world? Like I'm just trying to save myself, but I do believe that's how the world will save itself, is if everybody can look in the mirror, you know?
Have you read Beyond Order?
No.
It sounds like you have.
I downloaded it on Audible. I got through the introduction.
I mean, I just read chapter 12 again, and that was like what he said there in chapter 12. That's like the end of the book, ultimately, what you just said. You know, uh, yeah. So yeah, here. Uh, when I think about When I think about my parents, the same thing comes to mind. They are getting old. As people get older, in some sense, you see them crystallize into the people that they are. My father and my mother both have a decided character. They were who they were in their 50s, and now they are perhaps even more so. They have their limitations and their advantages. And it isn't, and it is even the case that the latter are often integrally necessary for the former. They are in their 80s now and are very particularized. Sometimes it is frustrating to deal with people and their particularities.
Mm.
You think, well, would not would not it be better if they could be some other way? I am not saying I think that about my parents more than people generally think that about each other. It is by no means a criticism of them. In addition, there is no doubt that they and others, many others, feel the same way about me. But it is necessary to understand that, just as in the case of children, all those particularities, fragilities, and limitations are part and parcel of what it is that you come to love. So you might love people despite their limitations, but you also love them because of their limitations.
Mm.
That is something very much worth understanding. Doing so may help you see how gratitude remains possible, despite the fact that the world is a very dark place and that each of us has our black elements of soul. We see in each other a unique blend of actuality and possibility that is a kind of miracle, one that can manifest itself truly in the world and the relationships we have that are grounded in trust and love. That is something for which you can be courageously thankful. That is something in which you can discover part of the antidote to the abyss and the darkness. Be grateful in spite of your suffering. I just realized I read the part that was not the part I wanted to read to you, but it was so good anyway. I just read it. Because I just read Rule 12 and in here he said something similar to what you had just said before.
Oh,
Oh
dude,
man,
that's
it's
so
funny.
funny.
There's so much good in this.
You could have
I
just
think
ended like you did that on purpose. I would have like rolled with
no, that's
it.
bullshit. Yeah,
I know.
I
I'm
think
glad
it
you
was
did.
here. Um, it is within the frame of that impossible undertaking. Yeah, but if I didn't say anything, right, then the people that are
Right,
really paying attention,
right.
are going to be like,
What?
"Is Jay an idiot?" And the people that truly need the help are just gonna be like, "Yeah, that's great."
Right.
And then we have a fucked up culture,
Right,
which is what happens when we don't tell the truth if we're leaders.
right,
And it's scary to tell the truth as a leader. Meaning, when I say leader, I mean in a position, it's implicit of authority. Anybody can lead, meaning anyone can tell the truth. The question is, what are the consequences based on the culture? If I tell the truth in North Korea, they might put me in prison, kill my
yeah,
family.
right,
If I tell the truth in America, in many contexts, I'm going to be able to not get killed,
right,
or put in prison. Like, if I'm using extreme examples, there's
sure.
exceptions on both sides. So I'm speaking from authority when I say leader, like implicit title, role, like, oh, trust that person, listen to that person. I'm not discounting hierarchy, because hierarchy is a signal of competence. It's like a smoke signal for, hey, this person's supposed to know what they're doing, and probably does, so I should pay attention,
Hmm.
because it's based on, like, well, they probably knew what they were doing in the past, so why shouldn't they know now? Except anyone can stop paying attention. That's what we learn in Rule 4. When Osiris stops paying attention,
Yeah.
his vision becomes clouded
Hmm.
and people
Does
get
that come
confused.
from like too many things? Does that come from, what makes you stop paying attention? Because like here's
Life.
Right. So like that's what I'm feeling. And I'm at a place where like my life,
Well,
like,
some people would say the devil too. I mean, like,
right, the yeah,
we have a lot of Christians on the podcast, and oftentimes they'll say that the enemy
yeah,
is among us and is
yeah,
trying to just like push us away from our
right.
destiny, our potential, our. But I mean, if you just think of it from a biological sense, like, oh, you know, I feel like having like watching TikTok for 25 minutes, or
Yeah.
I feel like watching TikTok. I feel, and then 25 minutes goes by. Why did I feel that? Well, maybe because I was in a state of anxiety because I had a responsibility I had to get done.
Mm-hmm.
And behaviorally, I've become addicted to TikTok.
Right.
And so I'm in a state of anxiety because there's something I have to get done. I'm not clear of how I'm going to do it.
Right.
So instead of writing down what I need to do and how, or talking about it with my boss, coworker, coach,
Scrolling something. Yeah.
that heightened state of anxiety is leading me to try to suppress it with sin, with vice.
Mm-hmm.
Not sin, like that's sin is hamartia, to miss the mark. So in some sense, I'm missing the mark. It's like a less extreme version of a sin to just not do what I said I was going to do.
But no, I feel like it's not, it is less extreme, but it is not hitting the target. So it's
I'm
like,
coping with the anxiety through doing something that's consumptive when
yeah.
I'm supposed to be creating something based on.
Yeah.
So
So
anyway,
no, yeah, this reminds me of we did that New Year's podcast, right? And we talked about
that was fun.
procrastination. And we talked about like what is for like the creative process, what is procrastination, right? And I feel like that subliminally maybe manifested into this where I looked at my life and I went, how many times am I calling preparation for like something I'm making? Like how many times am I calling scrolling on my phone to do research as, you know, part of the creative process because it's disconnecting me from like the stresses of life and it allows me to like think because when I'm mindlessly scrolling, that's when all the thoughts go away because I'm just like mindlessly watching content. But like then intentionally sitting down at 6 a.m. on a 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning and being like, you know, Jay, let's do this. Now I've replaced, you know, probably 10 hours of my life of mindlessly scrolling with conversations that are like, if I could show myself sitting in my studio in 2021 by myself working on paintings, like probably making $1,000 a month off of the paintings and things. Like if I could show myself the conversation, like this episode, if I could drop this episode into my YouTube algorithm as I'm
Mm.
like desperately searching for like some sort of content to help me through this phase of like I don't know like is this art stuff going to work out is like are people going to even ever see me for like what I'm trying to do or like is this going to be the answer? Are my family going to be able to eat off of this? Like what can I do? Like if this podcast drops in my algorithm and I'm listening to it while I'm painting, dude, I'm like locked in because I'm going to be like holy shit, like I actually am going to like come across people that are going to like allow me to because these thoughts that I'm like speaking into a camera right now were very present with me in 2021 when I'm watching, you know, comedy podcasts, just because that comedy is so good because there's the same level of truth that's in this podcast is in really good comedy podcasts. They
Mm.
just present it in a different way that makes you laugh and not feel so like hit in the heart by it. But in reality, if you're really listening, you're hitting the heart the same way because the truth is the truth. And so like that's why I think that's the funny part that I really haven't even given credit to yet is that I think when I started listening to like true comedians, that was what set me on the path. It wasn't a self-help book. It wasn't a podcast about motivation and how to get up early and go to the gym and all these like, gurus that tell you how to live your life better. It was a comedian talking about fart jokes, but then somehow tying it to the president of the United States and COVID and all the things that were going on, and like having like that one little real glimpse of like, oh, he gets it. Like that was when it like me was like, okay, like how do I get to say that? Like how do I get to, you know, just because they're just them. They're just being themselves. Now they obviously live in like ego because then like the fame kicks in of like their comedy and the things like that, and like the messaging changes as like, but I'm watching all that from a distance working on my craft. And so, that's the version of me that I feel like is on the bridge still. Like when I tell you, like I feel like on the last episode, I feel like I've crossed the bridge and I'm coming back. That's me in the bus with all the like new rules and orders and things that are conflicting. And I'm like trying to get back to my other self. And I'm like not even realizing that like my other self is walking towards me as well. And now I have to like swerve. Dude, this all sounds crazy. I feel like a crazy lunatic person even saying this out loud, but like I hope that this makes sense because
Well, if there's the two U's does based on rule, I think it's rule 11. Just I think if there's there's like the anti-hero in who we are. Here, listen to this. The individual, hero and adversary. So that's what you're intuiting this based on who knows what. I guess that's another conversation, but it's right here. So this would be so cool to see visually. If the night sky is chaos, the ocean nature, and the island oh, I'm sorry. I should have started over here. Hold on a second, because the future, it's no, it'll make sense. Yeah, the night sky is chaos, the ocean nature, and the island culture. So to visualize that, the night sky is chaos,
Mhm.
the ocean nature. Chaos is potential, nature, the ocean is nature, and the island is culture. Then the individual, hero and adversary, is one brother locked in combat with his twin in the middle of the aisle.
Mm.
Twin, there's two U's. It's a twin. Chaos, treasure, and dragon have their negative and positive element, as do nature, evil queen, and benevolent mother, and culture. So nature, evil queen, that's the negative. Benevolent means like generous and create uh, additive. Like evil, destructive, self parasitic. So the evil nature, evil queen is negative, benevolent mother, positive. Culture, authoritarian tyrant, top down, do as I say, force, uh, do what I think, right? Think what I think, you know, culture, authoritarian tyrant, and wise king. What do you think? How about this? Are you thinking? What's your agency? So on the culture side, culture has like a good and an evil, a constructive and a deconstructive. The constructive would be the wise king, and the deconstructive is the authoritarian tyrant. On the nature side is the evil queen, rather, evil queen, right? Parasitic, soul sucking, contemptuous, self absorbed,
Mhm.
or benevolent mother, curative, caring, healing, imaginative, potential manifesting. Okay, so anyway, so authoritarian tyrant and wise king. No less the individual. So here's where I highlighted. This is what I wanted to read you here. The positive, this is on page 334 in Rule 11, if anybody is going to read it. The positive element is the heroic aspect, the person who can sacrifice properly to nature and strike a bargain with fate such that benevolence reigns. The person who is awake, alert, attentive, communicative, and bears responsibility so that the tyrannical part of the state remains at bay. And the person who is aware of his or her own faults and proclivity for malevolence and deceit, so that proper orientation is maintained. The negative element is everything despicable and contemptible, particularly evident in yourself. If you have any sense, but also manifested to some degree by other people, and more clearly in stories. Those are the hostile brothers, a very old mythological idea, the hero and the adversary. The archetypal representations of those two forces, those two personified figures are Cain and Abel.
Mm.
That is one level of representation. Christ and Satan are a pair representing an even more fundamental duality. Cain and Abel, after all, are human, the first humans, born in the human manner, as Adam and Eve were created directly by God.
Mm.
Christ and Satan are elements of personified or deified eternity itself. So there exists a hero and an adversary, a wise king and a tyrant, a positive and negative maternal figure, and chaos itself. That is the structure of the world in 6 characters, with the strange seventh of chaos, in some sense, the ultimate birthplace of all others. It is necessary to understand that all 7 exist and that they are all existential permanents, elements of experience with which every soul, rich, poor, blessed, cursed, talented, dull, male, and female, must inevitably contend. That is life. They are life. Partial knowledge of the cast, conscious or unconscious, leaves you undefended, leaves you naive, unprepared, and likely to become possessed by deceit, resentment, and arrogance if you do not know that the treasure is guarded by a dragon, or that nature, beautiful nature, can turn its teeth on you in an instant, or that the peaceful society you take for granted is threatened constantly by authoritarianism and tyranny, or that you contain within yourself the adversary who might wish that all those negative transformations occur, then you are first a needy acolyte for an ideology that will provide you with a partial and insufficient representation of reality. And second, someone blind in a manner dangerous to themselves and others alike. If you are wise, your political philosophy encompasses a representation of all 7, even if you could not articulate it in those terms. We should always have enough sense to keep in mind, for example, that a great predator lurks beneath the thin ice of our constructed realities.
Mhm. To boil that all down into like the yin and yang of life, like that was the image that came to my mind because as you were reading that, I was thinking like, how in the world do I visually represent that? And I don't have an answer for that yet. But the most simplistic version of that is that yin and yang because it
Dude, it's brilliant.
it's
It
it
That's what Peterson does in his book.
what do you mean?
That's one of the symbols. That's chaos and order. It's the yin and yang. He talks about it. You haven't read these, but I want the listeners to know that you're an artist, right? He talks about artists too, and how they are on the forefront. They're like they project what eventually It's rule 8 in
Yeah.
the book. Try and make one room in your home as beautiful as possible. So I just want the audience to know that you haven't read these books, right?
No, I have not.
The dragon that's chasing its tail, the yin and the yang, chaos and order. That is boiling it down. You got it. You got it.
Yeah. Okay. So
So draw shit now.
yeah, now it's time to actually like, yeah, because that's actually, dude, that's man, I it feels so, um, it feels so like when I listen to these things, I don't feel like I have to try hard to understand them anymore because I'm listening to like the voice that's been screaming inside of me forever. It's not new information. It's truth that I was born with, that
Yeah,
we're
amen.
all born with, and that it just gets clouded in the fog. It just gets lost, like, it gets lost because of life, because of distractions, because of hurt, pain, all that stuff. When you get through all that pain and realize it's not going to kill me unless I let it. So like I'm just not going to let it kill me anymore. That's when all that truth comes back up. And then when you watch content, like, watching the Sermon on the Mount, like just that's the
Oh,
first that's the first one. I've got one more lecture left on it.
what do you think? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no,
I'll
that
listen.
was it
Yeah.
was it's a lot of what it's I've struggled with, the church, with my faith. I've struggled with things like that in my life. Like I used to work in ministry. I worked 3 years as a youth director for a church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Reason I went into ministry was because my dad died. I wanted to figure out where he was going. I thought
Man.
that would be the fastest track to get there was like, well, let me just immerse myself in this culture. And everybody here seems so positive about the fact that I'm going to see him again. So, but then like when you lose a loved one, you hear over and over like, he's in a better place. He's you'll see him again. He's just going ahead of you. And I'm like, yeah, but I love like the people that would say that to me, I'd go and be like, what's your life look like? And I'm like, well, how do you have this level of confidence? Because you don't do what you say ever. So I'm supposed to believe you on face value at like what eternity's supposed to look like? No, let me look for myself. And so then like I didn't go to a church to work there. I went to a church for a year and a half in Pittsburgh and like I said no to volunteering. I said because that's like the push as soon as you walk through the door. Be a part of it. You don't want to be a taker. You don't want to just sit here and consume. A consumer is what they call it in the church culture. Don't just be a consumer. And I'm like, well, dude, like that's backwards because you want me to sit here and volunteer and say, welcome to church and like welcome new because like I'm going out like, dude, I don't even know what I believe yet. You want me to stand on a platform and be like, this is where everybody needs to be. So, that'd be the first thing I'd say is if you're going to a church and like within the first day of you being there, they're asking you to volunteer, they just need help. And like you need to guard your heart because um you know, the reason they need help is probably because they have a revolving door of people that come through there, realize there's no depth spiritually to it, and then they leave. And so I learned that the hard way being in the church, where I was desperately seeking depth. And it got annoying. People would just, dude, can't you just like, no, I can't. I can't just do that. And then I just stopped. I just became the person that was like, well, I guess I'm just here now. Like I guess I'm just like we're not, it just doesn't exist. Like the level of depth that I'm looking for just doesn't exist. And I'm just, but what I realize now being on the outside of it is that everybody that was in there had that level of depth, but nobody was willing to actually say it or talk about it or, you know, for fear of being judged or kicked out of the church or, whatever. But that's what, if you actually read the scriptures, you actually read, you know, it's not this everything's going to be okay literature. It's really dark and deep and tormented and that scares a lot of people even worse. So like that was where that truth, all this stuff that you're saying like, hey, you get it. Like, yeah, of course, because Peterson's Dr. Peterson's stuff comes from truth, comes from the truth of the scriptures, not the stuff that gets put on a plaque at Home Goods and, sold in mass quantities. It's like, and that's why he got kicked out of the university. That's why he has went through what he's went through. Like, it's why he carried his cross. Like, that's why this means a lot to me that you're willing to sit down and talk through this, because God, it makes me feel alive. It makes me feel hopeful. It makes me feel like there is a version of my dad somewhere that I'm going to get to see again. Because, like, if I know that this to be, I believe that. I believe there's like multiple versions of ourselves, and this reality is for sure not all there is to creation. There's no way. Like, whether it's me taking off a headset someday and like I'm in eternity, or, like, the more we get more into virtual reality and like all, like, I did like an Apple Vision Pro test the other day. Dude, I was in a different dimension. I was not in this world. I don't know if you've put one of those things on yet,
No.
bro. You can do a podcast from anywhere in the world, and like, if I got this thing on,
Oh, wow. Oh, we could do it like this with the thing
bro,
and do a podcast with it on.
bro, it would be like you and I are sitting on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and
Really?
like I'm looking at the Grand Canyon, and I'm just like, well, and
And
I
the
know it
audience
sounds
could
like,
see that too with the video,
I
probably,
don't
or
know how the like capturing portion of it goes,
wow.
but what I will say is, instead of me
Wow.
sitting here and like seeing this chaos of a studio that
Yeah.
I've been working out of for the last, you know,
Yeah, you'd be wherever you want, like in the
I'd be
universe,
wherever I
flying
want to
around.
be to like clear my mind. Because as I'm like
Wow,
this
that's interesting.
conversation, I'm looking over here and I'm like, I got to clean up all this paint. I got to clean up. I spilled a bottle over there that I was in the middle of like a last minute, like
Wow.
trying to get this thing done. I didn't even have time to clean it up. Like, this whole week was absolutely chaos trying to get all these projects done in time for the event Thursday and everything. And that now I'm going to spend the day cleaning back up and getting this room back in order. But that's another thing too. When I moved into this house, the first thing that I did, because my family moved back from Charlotte during COVID and we had nowhere to live, we were living with my wife's parents. And I thought I got this like burst of like, this is when I need to step into my art. Like, the world shut down. Like, I need to like do something, but I'm like, I don't even have a room to make in. I'm living at my mother-in-law's house, you know. And we decided we were gonna buy this house, and I was like, I'm gonna go fix it up. I fixed up the kitchen and the bedroom and the living room first so that we could get into the house. Soon as we got into the house, the rest of the house, the basement, everything was like out of order, whatever. I came down here and I painted the walls black. I like painted the floor black. I blacked out this little box, and I'll show you the before and after what this studio looks like. But I was like, if I can have one room that I can just go in, get messy, leave stuff set up, leave thoughts half done on a canvas and not have to clean it up because it's in a living room and my kids are going to be playing and getting paint everywhere. Like, this was the one room that I set up, and it was a priority. I didn't even have money to invest into like setting this room up. I did it though. And that's how I know another truth that, he speaks about in that book is very true. You know,
Rule 8, try and make one room in your home as beautiful as possible,
yeah,
beyond order.
I'll send you this when we get off, of what the before and after of this little space in my basement look like. That's why I always talk about the basement. I always talk about like phases of my life when I have to return here. Um, there's something very symbolic about it to me. And the fact that I'm doing this podcast from my basement with my poor quality camera throughout this series, it's a humbling experience in itself because I just spent the last 2 years, with four HD 4K cameras hitting me every time I opened my mouth. So, yeah.
If you study art, page 202, and we'll end with this, and literature and the humanities, you do it so that you can familiarize yourself with the collected wisdom of our civilization. This is a very good idea, a veritable necessity, because people have been working out how to live for a long time. What they have produced is strange, but also rich beyond comparison. So why not use it as a guide? Your vision will be grander and your plans more comprehensive. You will consider other people more intelligently and completely. You will take care of yourself more effectively. You will understand the present more profoundly, rooted as it is in the past, and you will come to conclusions more carefully. You will come to treat the future as well as a more concrete reality, because you will have developed some true sense of time and be less likely to sacrifice it to impulsive pleasure. You will develop some depth, gravitas, and true thoughtfulness. You will speak more precisely, and other people will become more likely to listen to and cooperate productively with you as you with them. You will become more your own personal person and less a dull and hapless tool of peer pressure, vogue, fad, and ideology. Buy a piece of art, find one that speaks to you, and make the purchase. If it is a genuine artistic production, it will invade your life and change it. A real piece of art is a window into the transcendent, and you need that in your life because you are finite and limited and bounded by your ignorance. Unless you can make a connection to the transcendent, you will not have the strength to prevail when the challenges of life become daunting. You need to establish a link with what is beyond you, like a man overboard in high seas requires a life preserver, and the invitation of beauty into your life is one means by which that may be accomplished. It is for such reasons that we need to understand the role of art and stop thinking about it as an option or a luxury, or worse, an affectation. Art is the bedrock of culture itself. It is the foundation of the process by which we unite ourselves psychologically and come to establish productive peace with others. As it is said, quote, man shall not live by bread alone, Matthew 4:4. That is exactly right. We live by beauty. We live by literature. We live by art. We cannot live without some connection to the divine, and beauty is divine, because in its absence, life is too short, too dismal, and too tragic, and we must be sharp and awake and prepared so that we can survive properly and orient the world properly and not destroy things, including ourselves. And beauty can help us appreciate the wonder of being and motivate us to seek gratitude when we might otherwise be prone to destructive resentment. If you're listening to this podcast, share this with someone that you find beautiful and you have hope for in their journey of redemption. Remember, something we cannot see protects us from something we do not understand. The thing we cannot see is culture in its interpsychic or internal manifestation. The thing we do not understand is the chaos that gave rise to culture. If the structure of culture is disrupted, unwittingly, chaos returns. We will do anything to defend ourselves against that return. Preface, Maps and Meaning, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. I'll leave you with one last quote that I think it symbolizes this show today. For Vinnie, quote, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. Friedrich Nietzsche. Share this with a friend, leave us a review, go listen to episodes 1 through 5 of this painting series, and we will see you next time in the Culture Matters podcast.